My son is 2 years old tomorrow. He's younger than his brother and he's the youngest in the family. He eats nearly as much as his older sister. And he sleeps a tad better than when he was 1. This video is going to teach you every English grammar rule for comparatives and superlatives. The basic rules, the advanced rules, and even the things that native speakers do. And that's over 100 rules. First, we'll quickly go through the basics before we get to those advanced features. We use comparatives to show a personal thing has more of an adjective than one other. So if I say she is younger than him, she may be 2, he may be 3. Young applies more to her than him. But we use superlatives to show a personal thing has more of an adjective than any other. So now we have 4 people in the picture. She is the youngest in her family. That means if you rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, and the person with the fewest years goes at number 1, she would be number 1 because she is the youngest out of all of them. All of the others are older. In terms of the rules then, when you have a 1-syllable adjective, we usually add ER for comparatives and EST for superlatives, usually. So if we take the adjective young, the comparative is younger and the superlative is youngest. If you have 2 or more syllable adjectives, then add more before the adjective for the comparative and most before the adjective for superlatives. So mature has 2 syllables, mature. Compare that to young. Young has 1 sound, 1 syllable, young. Mature, 2 syllables, mature. So with mature, we go more mature, and then for the superlative, the most mature. It doesn't always apply, but those are the general rules. Some basic exceptions are when an adjective ends with E. Here we simply add R or ST. For example, cute finishes in E. We make it cuter and cutest by simply adding an R or an ST. Adjectives ending in Y add IER or iest, and we remove the Y. So tidy, with ending in Y, becomes tidier, which is IER, no Y, and tidiest, IEST, no Y. When an adjective ends consonant-vowel-consonant combination, double the final consonant. So hot, H is a consonant, O is a vowel, T is a consonant. For the comparative, HOTTER, hotter, and for the superlative, HOTTEST for the superlative. And some common irregular forms of these. Good or well becomes better and best. Bad and ill both become worse and worst. Far can become farther and farthest, or further and furthest. Little becomes less and least, and much or many turn into more and most. But you probably clicked to watch the harder stuff than this. Well, here it comes. Did you know that some 2-syllable words don't take more or most? For example, words ending LE. They don't take more or most, even though they have 2 syllables. So simple, 1, 2, 2 syllables. We don't say more simple or most simple. We say it's the simplest test ever. LEST. Also with OW endings. This road is narrower than most roads in my town. So narrow is the adjective. It finishes OW. So add ER for the comparative, EST for the superlative. And then there are some others, such as the word quiet. Now, quiet would usually argue has 2 sounds, quiet. But we don't use more or most. Your neighbourhood is much quieter than mine, or it is the quietest. Now, you may sometimes hear people saying more quiet or most quiet, but it's far more conventional to stick with the ER and the EST here. Now, the other way round is that you have some 1-syllable words that do take more or most. Which video is the most right on comparatives? Well, this is correct. It would be wrong to say which video is the righter on comparatives, because this is one of the exceptions where we use more or most before a one-syllable adjective. So adjectives such as real, right, wrong, just, true, real again. Let's take that out. I didn't mean to put it there twice. Also, like, cross, and apt. All of these adjectives will have more to make them a comparative and most to make them a superlative. What about as? As is used in a different way for comparison. We use as to show when two things are similar in quality. So here, look at the two boys. Let's talk about the boy on the left. He is as tall as his brother. And if you look on the screen, they're more or less the same height, aren't they? So we say as, then the adjective, and then as to say that they are similar or the same. Not as means less than. So here we have a boy on the right, a girl on the left. What could we say about the boy? He is not as tall as his sister. So his height is less than the height of his sister. We can also use not followed by the comparative form and then than, meaning less than or the same. So he is not taller than his sister. So this means that his height is less than, but it could also mean the same. This statement could also be used for the two brothers. He is not taller than his brother. He's the same height as his brother, but he's not taller than. He's either the same or less. Now, I've still got lots more rules to show you on comparatives and superlatives. But if you want to learn the whole of English grammar, try my Perfect English Grammar course, where I'll teach you in a similar way to what you're getting in this video, but across 40 hours with 600 different videos, with teaching, practice, revision tasks, and speaking exercises. You can find out more if you click in the link in the video description. We can also use just and nearly with the as, adjective, as combination. Just as plus adjective, then as emphasises the similarity. He is just as tall as his brother. Really meaning it's exactly the same. And then nearly as, adjective as, means very slightly less than. He is nearly as tall as his sister in the second picture. Well, that means the height is very similar, but he is a little bit below his sister's height. We can also say not nearly as with an adjective and as, and that means a lot less. So if we say he is not nearly as tall as his sister, then that actually means it's not the same, it's not nearly the same. His height is actually a lot lower. And if we say almost as, adjective as, well, this is similar to nearly. So we could say he is almost as tall as his sister. How about nouns? Because we don't just compare adjectives. If you want to compare nouns, the grammar usually changes depending upon whether a noun is countable or uncountable. Now, peas we normally count. 1p, 2p's, 3p's. But rice we don't normally count. And that affects the words we use. So more peas than and more rice than is the same. But when we're talking about a lower amount, fewer with the countable word, peas, and less with the uncountable word, rice. And then when we use as and as many peas as, but as much rice as. So we switch between fewer and less, many and much, when we're switching between the countables and uncountables. We also have lots of options if we want to emphasize comparatives. Here's a list of common ways that people emphasize the comparative in English. And I'm using better as an example of the comparative that we are emphasizing. So we have even better, still better, all the better, much better, so much better. Then we have far better. And I've put this in red because this would be used more commonly in an informal situation. So far better would be informally used. Oh, it's far better than the other. But if I say, oh, it's a lot better, that would be more neutral. That could be used informally or formally. Way better or miles better. Very informal ways of emphasizing the adjective. If we want to be more formal, then we could use considerably better, significantly better, or vastly better. And then again, we can also say infinitely better. And this means as many times as possible, this is better than something else. And we can also say 2 times better, or 3 times better, or 4 times better, 10 times better, 1,000 times better. So we can use a number with times and then the adjective to show how much the difference is between one thing and the other. So these words give strong emphasis. These words give more moderate or limited emphasis. It's somewhat better, slightly better, a bit better, a little better. The next ones are a little bit more informal. A touch better, a smidge better, a tad better, marginally better. They all limit the difference between the two things. They're suggesting that the difference between one thing and another is not so great. So let's look at this example of this child eating breakfast. Perhaps this child was ill yesterday and the parent asks, "Are you feeling better today?" And the child answers informally, "I'm a tad better. I had breakfast this morning." So they're not feeling lots and lots better. They're just feeling a little bit better. So they're a tad better. But they could have used one of the other words too. I'm somewhat better. I'm marginally better. But since it's a child, I've picked an informal one. And then we also have words that emphasize the negative, the lack of emphasis. So if I say I'm no better, then that means I'm the same as I was before. I didn't improve. Not any better means exactly the same, but any brings even more emphasis to the fact that it stayed the same. Not all that better and not that much better means a little bit better, but with a negative emphasis. So if you ask this, "Are you feeling better today?" and you look at the man's likely to say, "I'm not that much better. I can get out of bed, but not for long." So perhaps yesterday he was in bed all day. Now he can get out of bed, but he still feels really ill. So he's not that much better. You can intensify superlatives as well. We could use these words to intensify a superlative by putting words before the, after the, and before the superlative, and after the superlative. Before the, we could say by far the best, or easily the best. And this means that not only is this person the best, but they're the best and they're a long way ahead of the others. After the and before the superlative, the very best and the absolute best. And this emphasizes the fact that they are definitely clearly at the top if they're listed in a list of others beneath them. And we could also go after the superlative. The biggest yet means up to this time. Maybe there'll be something bigger afterwards, but up to this time, this is the biggest. The biggest ever emphasizes in all of time, this one is the biggest. And the biggest by far, again, emphasizes the gap between the fact that they are so far at the top and all the others are a long way below. So if we say the latest Taylor Swift concert was the biggest yet, then we say this concert was bigger, perhaps because there was more people there, or it made more money than any others up until now. Maybe in the future there'll be bigger ones, but at the moment, this is the number one. Have you ever heard of repetitive comparatives? What does this mean? Repeating a comparative indicates a progressively greater amount of the adjective. And look at the example. The train got smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the distance. Focus on the word smaller and smaller. And now imagine this train going away from you. How big does it look? In 1 second, it looks this big. Another second later, it's this big. Then it's that big. And then you can't see it at all. It got smaller and then smaller and then smaller. And we often do this with comparatives where we repeat them with and in the middle. Smaller and smaller means that it's getting less and less. Progressively, it's that size, now it's that size. So this is when you repeat comparatives, and we can do this in a number of ways. We can also do it with two-syllable adjectives by using more. The film got more and more interesting as it moved towards the end. So it was really interesting, and then it got even more interesting as it got towards the end, and that progressively increased. My interest levels increased and increased and increased, and I show that through this repetitive comparative. Now we usually use more than in front of a noun. I've got more money than someone else. But we can also use more than in front of an adjective, and this gives it a different meaning. Look at the example in red first. I'm more than interested in the vacancy that has been advertised. It's my perfect job. So what does more than interested mean? Because I am a noun, a pronoun, but interested is an adjective. So we're not comparing I and interested. Here we're doing something else. Look at the words in black here. We can use more than followed by an adjective to mean a lot of the adjective. So I'm not just interested, I'm interested a lot. And more than provides the same emphasis as a lot would. We can also do the same the other way round with less than, if it's followed by an adjective. And this means absolutely not. I'm less than impressed with my new accommodation. Look at it. It looks terrible. Less than impressed here means I'm absolutely not impressed with this new accommodation. I don't want to live in this place. And here are some other advanced comparatives. My t-shirt is the same as yours. So if we're looking at the two black t-shirts, we would use this. This means no difference. If we're comparing one of the black ones with the red ones, we'd say my t-shirt is not the same as yours. That means there's a difference. But we could also say my t-shirt is more of a red colour. And that means not that it's necessarily red, but it looks more red than the other one. And if I said my t-shirt is less of a red colour, well, that doesn't mean it's not red, it just looks less red. The other thing I'm comparing to has more red in it. Have you heard of the former and the latter? Look at the example and then I'll explain. This company has been owned by two people. The former came from the USA and the latter came from China. So here we have two people and we want to refer back to both of the people. So the former means the first of the two people and the latter means the second of the two people. So we can compare them by using the former and the latter. The former and the latter, this one is like this one is different in that way. Old is also an exception because old can become older and oldest in the comparative and superlative forms, but when describing people, it often becomes elder and eldest. So instead of saying I'm the oldest in my family, you'll commonly hear people saying I'm the eldest in my family. Who is the eldest? Who is elder? I am elder. But we don't have an adjective eld, it's always old. What about little? We don't usually say more little or littler. We normally revert to smaller and smallest. So we completely forget about the adjective little when we make it a comparative, usually. Okay, we've gone through all of the common rules that you'll cover from the basic, intermediate, advanced level, but now we're going for the really advanced stuff. Now we're going for the comparative rules and phrases that will turn you more native-like in your speech if you use the phrases I'm going to teach you now. First of all, linked comparatives. My best friend is amazing. The more I get to know him, the more I like him. Notice the combination here. The more. And we use the followed by a comparative and then the followed by another comparative to show that if one thing happens, then another thing also happens. And we can use this with other words too. The less I worry, the less I wake up in the night. So if I worry less, then I wake up, I sleep better basically. But like this man, the more I worry, the less I sleep. So here we mix it up. We don't have the same comparative. The more of one thing leads to less of something else. And we can show this relationship by using the followed by a word and then the followed by another word to show that one thing clearly follows on to another. Here's some other phrases that do this in a similar way. The sooner the better. Now here, this is a set phrase. You don't split it up. You don't say the sooner the sooner something, the better something else. Here it all comes together. And this means it would be better if this happened sooner. So maybe someone asks you, how quickly do you want the job done? And your reply is, the sooner the better. And that basically means it would be better if this happened sooner. The more the merrier. This means if more people are involved, it will be more enjoyable. So maybe you have been invited to an event and you say you're worried because maybe if you go, then there'll be too many people there. Maybe it's an event with 3 or 4 people and you think, well, if I go, I might be getting in the way. And the person who's hosting the event says to you, don't worry, the more the merrier. If more people are involved, it will be more enjoyable. Have you heard of the phrase, the bigger the better? This is often said when making plans. It's normally to do with the future, and it's an encouragement to make big plans. Maybe you work for the local government and you're planning a new transport system in the town and you're worried about the cost and you're worried about how many roads are being built. And maybe someone in your team says, the bigger the better. And that means we want big plans. This will be more beneficial for everyone. And what about this one? The less said, the better. This means don't say much because you'll make things worse if you do. Maybe you're in a college and there's a problem with another student and you want to get involved, but someone advises you, maybe a teacher advises you, the less said, the better. Because if you say a lot, then you could make things worse. And you can make your speaking and writing even more advanced by using more comparative idioms, such as idioms that begin with all, such as all the more reason to. And this means we have an even better reason to do something. So someone says, come to my party, and you say, oh, it's my birthday tomorrow, perhaps I've got other plans. And they respond, all the more reason to celebrate. This means you've got an even better reason to come to the party. All the better. And this means make things better. How's your day going? All the better for seeing you. In other words, my day was good and now it's even better because I saw you. We have idioms beginning with none, such as none too pleased, none the worse, none the wiser. And this simply means not followed by the words afterwards. None too is followed by an adjective. So none too pleased means not pleased. And then none the worse and none the wiser are none the followed by the comparative. So none the worse means I'm not worse. None the wiser means I haven't got wiser. We have idioms beginning with better. Better late than never. This means it's good that you came even if you were late. And better safe than sorry, it's best to be careful, otherwise something may go wrong. Here are some other common ones that are useful to use. Much the same. I'm much the same as yesterday. No change. Easier said than done. Well, this is when something seems a simple idea but isn't that simple in reality. Can you repair my broken house? Well, it's easier said than done. If you look at the plans, it looks easy, but actually doing it is a hard job. And for better or worse, this is a phrase you use to say that something will be true in good times and difficult times. Sometimes when people are married, get married, they say, I'm going to stay with you for better or worse. That means I'm going to stay with you whether there are good times or difficult times. And let's finish with a couple more comparative rules. We have this combination, not so, adjective, and then a followed by a noun. Let's put this in an example so you can see how to use it. It was not so cold a night that we needed to put the heating on. What does not so cold a night mean? Well, if you put the whole sentence together, the night was not cold enough to require the heating. So not so cold a night. The night was not cold enough for what comes next. And as is or as was. She is a hairdresser, as was her mother. This simply means in the same way. She is a hairdresser, her mother was too. And a final reminder, if you want to learn about the whole of English grammar, try my Perfect English Grammar course, which you can start now if you click in the link in the video description below me.